Hello Nuggets! This video is going to cover the subjects and predicates review lesson. Remember, when you're taking these notes, these go in the writing section of your binder. At any time, if you need to pause the video to finish writing something, go ahead and do so. First things first, take a second and in your notebook on your sheet of paper, write a sentence down. It can be as short as you want or as long as you want, but write one complete sentence. Don't forget to capitalize and punctuate. Pause the video now to do so. Hit play when you're ready to start. Now, look at the sentence that you just wrote down in your notes. Think about the fact that you knew that that was a sentence. Well, how did you know? What makes a group of words a sentence? Take a second, pause this video, and write your answer down. Try to pretend that you are writing a dictionary definition for someone who does not know what a sentence is. So if you were trying to explain what it is to someone who has no clue, how would you define what a sentence is? Pause this video and then hit play when you're ready to go on. We'll talk about the real definition of a sentence in just a few minutes. But first, let's try and apply the definition that you came up with. I'm going to show you two different sentences, and I want you to think to yourself, is this a sentence or not? So here's my first group of words. It says, the lazy carpet ate a false shovel. Take a second. Is this a sentence or not? You're right. This is a sentence. It's a sentence for a couple reasons. Yes, it's capitalized. And yes, it has end punctuation. But those things in and of themselves don't make a sentence. We also have to express a complete thought. And complete thoughts are always going to have two components or two items. They're always going to have a subject. So who or what is this about? It's about the carpet. And then it will say something about the subject or what the subject is doing. So what about the carpet? Well, it is eating a false shovel. So even though this is a nonsense, goofy, weird sentence, it's still a complete thought. It has a subject and a verb, so we would say, yes, it is a sentence. Let's look at one more. Because the sweet potato had the giggles. Take a second. Is this a sentence? Why or why not? Well, when we look at this, at first we might be inclined to think, yeah, it's a sentence, because it is capitalized and it does have end punctuation, both of which are great things to have. Then we ask ourselves, all right, it does have a subject. It's about the potato, and the potato is doing something. We're saying something about it. Be careful with this. The potato is not giggling. It says the potato had. So we do have a subject and a predicate or a verb. So what's the problem here? This is not a sentence because of this magical word here at the beginning. The word because. Adding this word, which is something called a subordinating conjunction, adding this subordinating conjunction to the front of the sentence makes it an incomplete thought. It can't stand on its own. If I walked up to you and I said, because I went to the mall and I walked away, you'd want to know, well, because you went to the mall, what happened? You're missing the cause and effect. And that's why you may have been taught in the past, never start a sentence with the word because. Well, we're going to revise that lesson a little bit. You can start a sentence with because so long as you add something to it to make it a complete thought. So this has a subject and a verb, but it's not complete. So I could fix this one of two ways. I could just get rid of the word because, or I could just add to it. So because the sweet potato had the giggles, what happened? I'm going to take this period and transform it into a comma, and then I can finish writing my sentence. So maybe because the sweet potato had the giggles, the lettuce passed out. Now I have completed my thought. The other thing I want to point out to you is that I also have a new subject and a new verb. which we're going to learn more about subjects and verbs and predicates in this video. My new subject is the lettuce, and my new predicate or my new verb is past. Don't worry if you're confused. We're going to go into more detail on later slides. Starting with this one. So look at your definition for a sentence. And this is the definition of a sentence, or rather the formula that I want you to commit to memory. There are 3 components in the perfect recipe for a complete sentence. And they are a subject plus a predicate plus a complete thought equals a complete sentence. If you are missing any one of these items, you don't have a complete sentence and you're going to lose points, which, as you know, is very important to be careful of in my class in particular. Your subject, those will always be nouns or pronouns. Okay, so nouns, remember, are people, places, things, ideas, objects. And pronouns, just a quick refresher, remember pronouns take the place of nouns so that you don't sound like a broken record when you speak. So, for example, I wouldn't want to say, Miss D went to the store and Miss D bought some chocolate and Miss D took it home and shared it with Mr. Utterback. You're getting tired of hearing my name over and over again. Instead, we would use the pronoun she. So pronouns like she, he, we, they, it, all of these can also be subjects. And we'll look at that on some examples. Your predicate, on the other hand, these are going to include verbs and words that relate to your verbs. And there are 2 main types of verbs. Most of us don't have any difficulty identifying action verbs because it's self-defining. What's an action? Dancing, laughing, running, biting, crying, fighting. All of those are actions, and they're very easy to recognize as verbs. We tend to fall apart, though, sometimes when we're looking for verbs and we don't see an action. There's always going to be a verb somewhere in your sentence. It might not be an action, though. In this case, 9 times out of 10, that verb is going to be something we call a linking verb. Linking verbs are called linking verbs because they connect 2 sides of the sentence, usually connecting a noun to an adjective or describing word. If you've forgotten what linking verbs are, we'll review them on another slide. So this is your formula, right? When you're trying to assess complete thought, always ask yourself, if I walked up to somebody and said this, and then walked the other direction, would it make sense to that person? That should help you out. All right, you've heard me say the words subject and predicate several times in the last few minutes. These are our operating definitions for subject and predicate. So there are 2 main parts of a sentence. First, the subject. The subject tells who or what the sentence is about. It's usually at the beginning of a sentence, but not always. Technically, the subject can appear anywhere. So we're going to have to really pay close attention to how our parts of speech are working together. And you see the last part of this definition says subjects are nouns or pronouns. Okay? And remember, there can be more than one. So we're going to have to be very careful when we identify those. The predicate, on the other hand, tells what the subject is doing or what it is like. It can also describe a state of being, and it's usually after the subject. Usually. That is the normal pattern sentences follow, but not all sentences obey that rule. So keep that in mind. And as we just discussed, they are action verbs or linking verbs typically. If you need to pause this for more time, go ahead and do so. Hit play when you're ready to continue. All right, so here are some examples of subjects and predicates. So on the left side in blue, we have the subjects. On the right side, we have the predicates in red. And if you just look at the subjects, the volcano, a reporter, Helen Keller, pizza, you'll notice that all of these are related to nouns. A volcano is a thing, a reporter is a person, Helen Keller is a person, and pizza is a thing. So we do have all nouns. If we look through just the predicates, we see a lot of verbs. So predicate, erupted again. The verb is erupted. Relayed the news to her editor. We have relayed. Became a writer. We have the verb became. Is my favorite food. Now this one at first might throw you because you clearly don't have an action here. This is a good example of a linking verb. The verb is. And it's called a linking verb because it connects what's before it and what's after it. Oftentimes, this will be a noun and a noun. Sometimes it will be a noun and an adjective. So we can see that this is the bridge between pizza and food. Does everybody agree that pizza is a food and that a type of food is pizza? And it's delicious, right? Am I making you hungry? So this is a good example of a linking verb. Let's look at the sentences. So if we read them straight through, the volcano erupted again. A reporter relayed the news to her editor. Helen Keller became a writer. Pizza is my favorite food. Now, when we talk about subjects and predicates, we're going to talk about them in two different ways. We're going to talk about them as complete subjects and predicates, and we're also going to talk about them as simple subjects and predicates. So the next few slides are going to show us the difference between complete subjects and predicates and simple subjects and predicates. And I think you'll be relieved to see they're pretty easy to remember. So let's start with complete subject. As we talked about, we know what subjects are. They are nouns or pronouns, and they are what the verb is doing. So your definition for a complete subject is all the words before the verb that relate to the main noun the sentence is about. So we have a typo there. Please forgive me. See, even your teachers make mistakes. So complete subject, all the words before the verb that relate to the main noun the sentence is about. Okay. So if the complete subject is everything related to the nouns, the complete predicates is everything related to the verb or the action or the state of being in the sentence. So the complete predicate is the verb plus all the words after it that relate to the action. Okay. I'm a very visual person, so a good way to visualize complete subject and complete predicate is imagine that you are Jackie Chan, all right, get that mental picture in your head, and you are karate chopping a sentence into two pieces. This is what I'm asking you to do when I ask you to identify the complete subject and complete predicate. So let's look at how we do that. These are the steps that you will follow to identify the complete subject and the complete verb. First, always start by trying to locate your verb. That's generally the easiest place to start. Once you find your verb, step 2, you'll draw a line before the verb, dividing your sentence in half. This divides it into the complete subject and the complete predicate. So again, I am a visual person, so let's look at some examples. And even though these are nonsense sentences, we can still divide them easily. So the first example says, the pumpkin danced across the airplane. So step 1, I want to try to find the verb. Always make sure you read the whole sentence before finding your verb. So can you identify the verb in this sentence? You're right. My verb is danced. So my second step is to draw a line before the verb, dividing the sentence in half. Ta-da! Now I can say that my complete subject is the pumpkin. And my complete predicate, it starts with the verb and includes everything after it. Danced across the airplane. Let's try one more. Second example. The silly giraffe was pink and purple. Now, this one's a little bit more difficult. Can you find the verb? You're right. The verb is was. Now, it's not an action. This is a good example of a linking verb because it's showing a state of being. The giraffe was these two colors. Okay, so I'm going to draw my line before the verb. Hiya, just like Jackie Chan. And then I can identify clearly the silly giraffe is the complete predicate or subject because it is everything before the line, complete subject. And then my complete predicate starts with a verb and includes everything after it. Was pink and purple. If you were at first thinking pink and purple might be your verb, they're actually adjectives. Colors are adjectives. And so this is another clue that what I have here is a linking verb because I could say the pink and purple giraffe. So they're adjectives describing the noun. If you need more time for the slide, pause it and then click play when you're ready to continue. Here are some more examples of complete subjects and predicates. So we have our subjects, continents, plants in the classroom, basketball, and astronomy. Notice in the subject, we have nouns, all right, that are part of the groups of words that are in our complete subject. Then let's take a look at our complete predicates. Sometimes they're very long, sometimes they're very brief. So the complete predicate, notice it's going to usually start with a verb, and then it will include everything after it. So I have drift as my verb, need more sunlight, need, are two of my hobbies. Again, this is a good example of a linking verb. Now we'll put them together. Continents drift, the plants in the classroom need more sunlight, basketball and astronomy are two of my hobbies. Now, what I want you to do is read each of these 4 sentences, and then I want you to write them in your notes and try to identify the complete subject and the complete predicate by dividing it in half like Jackie Chan. Hiya! All right, and then either using a colored marker or a colored pen, or you can just label. Make sure that you label the complete subject and the complete predicate. Pause this video and complete the work, and then hit play when you're ready to check your answers. Great, welcome back. Let's talk through 1 through 4. The Chipotle burrito won the lottery. Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to try to find my verb. And my verb, well, what did the burrito do? He won the lottery. So won is my verb, which means I would put my line before the verb. And so my complete subject, and this should be labeled on your paper, the complete subject is the Chipotle burrito. And my complete predicate is won the lottery. Okay. Notice lottery is a noun, but it is not part of the subject. Do you know why? It's at the end of the sentence. The sentence isn't about the lottery, it's about the burrito. This is something called an object. What was won? The lottery. We'll talk more about objects in another sentence. Just remember, subjects are almost always near the beginning. Let's go on to number 2. The book read the person. Your dividing line should be before read, because read is your verb. So your complete subject should be labeled the book, and your complete predicate should be read the person. It's a fun sentence. Number 3, Tammy is a beautiful cupcake. My verb is a linking verb, and that verb is. So I'm going to draw my line dividing the sentence in half right here. My complete subject is pretty short, Tammy. My complete predicate is rather long, is a beautiful cupcake. This is linking, and you can very clearly see it because does everybody agree that the cupcake is Tammy and Tammy is a cupcake? That's how you know you have a linking verb. Now, number 4 was the most difficult. All right. Where should my line be? Well, at first, when I look at the sentence, I see a couple verbs. I see running, I see to run, I see is, and it can be very easy to get confusing. Did you notice that there was a comma after moon? When you see commas, we will be studying commas later in the year, but for now, I want you to remember this very important phrase. Commit this to memory. Commas are zippers. It's a very useful metaphor. Okay? It's when you say one thing is something it's not. So commas are zippers. Well, why? Well, think of a jacket that has a zipper. You can zip that jacket on, zip. You can zip that jacket off, zip. But no matter what, you're still the same person underneath. Zippers are used in sentences, commas are used in sentences to add extra details or extra information. Again, we'll learn more how to do this later in the year. But for now, when you're trying to find your subjects and predicates, it's useful to eliminate material or details that can be distracting that might cause you to choose the wrong subject and verb. So when you have a comma after the first part of a sentence, look at what's there. After running around the moon. If I walked up to you and I said, after running around the moon, and I walked away, is that a complete thought? No. This is a good example of a subordinate piece of the sentence. This is something called a phrase, because it does have a verb, but it doesn't have a subject, and it can't stand on its own. So remember what I said, commas are zippers. The zipper shows that it was added in, it's extra material. So we can pretend that this first part of the sentence does not exist. What's left over is the core of the sentence. The squirrel is going to run for mayor. Now you have a lot less to look at and it's easier to identify your subject and predicate. So look at what's left. What is your verb? Be careful. Yes, your verb is going. This is a good example of a verb with a helping verb. Okay, so you actually have two words that work together as your verb. So since this is my verb, my line will go after squirrel. So my complete subject is everything before the word is. So if I hadn't scribbled this out, the entire complete subject would be, after running around the moon, the squirrel, and then my complete predicate would be, is going to run for mayor. Okay? How'd you do? Let's keep going. All right, we just went over complete subjects and predicates. That's our Jackie Chan, hiya, chop the sentence in half. When you do simple subjects and predicates, did any of you play the game Operation when you were kids, where you had to use the tweezers to pull out the organs out of the game? That's more what you're doing when I ask you for simple subjects and simple predicates. Whereas before, we were taking the entire half of the sentence. For simple subject and simple predicate, we are just pulling out certain words. Think of the way cavemen speak. Jane, run. Dog, run fast. Okay? They're not talking in complete sentences. That's sort of the way that this works. You're pulling out just the core nuggets in the sentence. So simple subjects, we're still talking about nouns, the person, place, thing, or idea the sentence is about, but it's just the nouns. Now, keep in mind, there might be more than one person, place, or thing that's related to the verb. So it is possible to have more than one. But the only thing that you should be marking are the nouns that are doing the verbs or that the verbs are about. So just the nouns. It does not include any other words like adjectives. Okay? So if we said, the silly girl, okay, we would only include girl. We wouldn't include the or silly because those words are not nouns. Your simple predicates, on the other hand, they tell you what the subject is or what it does. So it's just the verbs. And again, there can be more than one. For example, you can say, I went home and ate dinner. Well, you did two actions. You went and you ate. So it's possible to have more than one. Just make sure that you only include the verbs. So for example, if I said, Jose runs fast, okay, I would only say runs for my simple predicate. I wouldn't include the word fast because that's an adverb. It's telling us how he ran. So only verbs. So the moral of the story is only nouns for subjects, only verbs for simple predicates. If you need more time to finish writing down your notes, pause this video and hit play when you're ready to continue. So, these are the steps that you're going to follow when I ask you to identify or locate your simple subject and your simple verb. You'll notice the first two steps are the same. First, find the verb. 2, draw a line before the verb, dividing your sentence in half into complete subject and predicate. That's what we just covered. You know how to do this. But when we do simple subject and simple verb, we go one step farther. You're going to look at each half of the sentence in turn and isolate just the nouns and just the verbs. So step 3, you'll look at the right side of your sentence, or the second half of your sentence, and circle just the verb or the verbs. Okay? This will be your simple predicate. Then you want to ask yourself a question. Who is doing the verb? So plug in whatever the verb might be. So who is running or who is laughing? Okay? You can also ask yourself who is the verb about or what is the verb about. Then look at the first half of your sentence. And then you will circle just the noun or nouns that answer your question. Okay, it's important that you ask yourself the question because there might be other nouns in the sentence that are near the beginning that aren't your subject. Okay, so always ask yourself the question, who is doing the verb, all right, or who is the verb about? That'll make sure that you get the right one. And just those nouns, that's going to be your simple subject. So let's look at some examples. All right, the happy students really loved taking notes, right? This is your favorite activity. Yes. Okay. So again, we're going to follow the steps. So what are the happy students doing? Be careful. Are they taking notes? No, they're not taking notes. This sentence is about how they loved taking notes, right? So I'm going to divide my sentence in half before the verb. Hold up just a second. Let's look at my complete subject and my complete predicate. The happy students really. Does really describe the happy students? Are they really happy students? No. What word does really actually go with? Really actually goes with the word loved. Do you agree? And that's because really is a special type of part of speech called an adverb. And adverbs, remember, tell us how verbs are done. Okay? They can also describe other adverbs or adjectives. So my line is in the wrong place, even though it's just before the verb. And the reason why it's in the wrong place is because really is describing how they loved. Okay? So adverbs stay with their verbs. So if I had my complete subject, the happy students, my complete predicate would be really love taking notes. Now I can't stop here because remember, we weren't asked to identify the complete subject and complete predicate. We were only asked to identify the simple subject and the simple predicate. So let's go on to the next step. Look at the last half of the sentence. Really loved taking notes. What is just the verb, the action, or the state of being that's happening here? Well, it's tempting to put taking, right? But is that what they're actually doing? No, they're actually loving. That's what's happening in the sentence. So my simple predicate, just the verb, is loved. Then I ask myself the question, well, who loved taking notes? The happy students. Be careful though. Am I going to put a box around happy? No, because happy is an adjective. It's not a noun. The only thing that I want to put a box around is students. Okay? So the core of my sentence is students loved. Okay? Students loved. Let's go through the other examples. When Janet is away, Joey is depressed and refuses to go anywhere. This one is tricky. Notice I have a comma zipper. That says to me I can basically ignore the first part of the sentence for the time being. I can pretend that it doesn't exist. Okay? It actually might have its own subject and verb that can't stand on its own. Now let's look at what we have left over. Joey is depressed and refuses to go anywhere. Okay, let's find the verb. Well, what is Joey doing? He is depressed. Is that it? I think he's doing something else. He is refusing. Okay, so this is a good example of a sentence that actually has two simple predicates, is depressed and refuses. And then who is depressed and refuses to go anywhere? Joey. So my simple subject is Joey, and my simple predicates are is depressed and refuses. Last one. The handsome boy and the pretty girl always went to the movies on Friday. First, I'm going to divide this into my complete subject and complete predicate. I'm going to put my line after girl because always is an adverb and it's describing when or how they went to the movies. So my line goes before always. What are they doing? They went to the movies. And then ask yourself, who went? Well, the boy went and the girl went. Notice I did not put a box around pretty. I did not put a box around handsome because both of those are adjectives. You ready to try it yourself? Or do you need some more examples? This one tends to be a little bit more difficult, so here are a few more examples. So if you look at the left, these are our subjects in blue, and the simple predicates on the right are in red. So Jay-Z and Kanye West, one of my friends, Inception, and game. Notice just the nouns and a pronoun, one is a pronoun, okay, are my subjects. In the right column, in the red, we have our verbs, our simple predicates. Wrote many songs together, plays the bass guitar, is a great movie, ended with a touchdown. Okay, so when we put them all together, we have Jay-Z and Kanye West wrote many songs together. One of my friends plays the bass guitar. Now, when you read this sentence, do you know why friends is not your subject? You're right. It's because the friends aren't all playing the bass guitar. Only one of them is. And this is a good example of a pronoun being used as the subject. One plays the bass guitar. Inception is a great movie. That's a good example of a linking verb again because we're linking movie to Inception. And then the last one, the dramatic game ended with a touchdown. Okay, the game ended. Let's see how you're doing. All right, same thing as before. Write these 4 sentences in your notes. And then I want you to try to divide and then identify your simple subjects and simple predicates. Put a square box or rectangle around your simple subjects and put a circle around your simple predicates. Pause this video and then hit play when you're ready to go over your answers. All right, welcome back. Number 1, the llama and the fish got married while running a marathon. Well, this one's a little bit tricky because I see 2 verbs. I see got married and I also see running. So then I need to read my whole sentence again and ask myself, okay, what are the llama and the fish doing? Are they running the marathon right now? No, they're actually getting married. Okay, so this is going to be my simple predicate, got married. Then I ask myself, who got married? And of course, my simple predicates would then be the llama and the fish. So llama, fish got married. Number 2, the grizzly is proud of his silvery purple hair. Well, I'm going to divide before the verb, and then let's look and see what we have. What is the grizzly doing? Well, he's not doing anything, but I'm describing him. I'm saying he's a state of being. And so my simple predicate is. That's a linking verb. Who is proud of his silvery purple hair? The grizzly. So grizzly is my simple predicate or subject, and is my simple predicate. Number 3, this one has a comma zipper in here designed to throw you off. So let's look at it. Because of the rain, the snake decided to boogie. Well, what's happening in this sentence? I see 2 possible verbs. I see decided, and I also see boogie. But is the snake actually boogieing yet? No. He's deciding to boogie. So decided would be my simple predicate. Who decided to boogie? The snake. Now, you might have noticed that the word rain is in the first part of the sentence, and it's actually a noun. But that is not your subject because is the rain deciding to boogie? No. You could also have figured this out by remembering that commas are zippers and pretending like this opening introductory phrase doesn't exist. And the last one, the quiet mouse and the loud house laughed at the jumping rope. So what's going on here? Well, I see 2 possible potential verbs. I see laughed and I see jumping. But when I step back from the sentence, I realize jumping is not a verb. I'm describing the jumping rope. That's actually a noun. It's not a verb at all. So I know that can't be my predicate. So that only leaves me one option. What are they doing? They're laughing. Okay. Then I'll ask myself, who laughed at the jumping rope? And that would be the mouse and the house. Now double check your paper. Make sure that you did not put a box around loud or quiet. And the reason for that is quiet and loud are describing the nouns. Those are adjectives. They're not nouns. And when we do simple subjects, only the nouns get the box. All right, how did we do? Did we do well? Perfect. Okay. In class, we did a group activity. I'm not going to cover this because you will not be doing it at home. And then just a reminder, if you're watching this video the day of class or the day before class, remember you do have a homework assignment. It's the front of the worksheet and the back, all right, and you do get points for this. If you have any questions about this video, please come see me before or after school. Before school, I am in the library from 7 to 7:45. And after school, I'm always in my classroom until at least 2:30. So just come see me if you need some help. Great. I'll see you in class, Nuggets. Bye.